welcome to our Big Brother Canada 11 daily drop update that's not entirely daily. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today to talk through the events of the drop is Scally. How you doing, Scally?
Hello. I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Checking out the daily drops over on Big Brother Canada.
Yes. Well, we are here again to talk through the latest from the Big Brother Canada 11 house. And just to catch you up to speed, we saw Jonathan evicted on Thursday night. Kuzi then won the HOH. And Kuzi's plan, as of yesterday's drop, was to nominate Santina and Ty with the hopes of evicting at least one of them, seemingly Ty as the initial sort of target, but really basically just needing to get rid of one of them in an attempt to gain favor with the girls and get to, you know, some kind of resolution there, despite the fact that the girls have been targeting Kuzi. We talked a lot about this yesterday and how maybe not the best move in the world for Kuzi. Now, it does not appear that anything has necessarily changed as far as Kuzi's plans go, but we do have some update on, and not a huge update, just kind of like some hints here and there on what this fatal feast might be, because Arissa told us on Thursday night that there would be a fatal feast in which one player would be leaving the game, and this would all play out on Tuesday. And they are now aware of the fact that there is a fatal feast coming up, but we'll have to explain to you how and why. So, we opened up the drop with Shania, Renee, and Claudia all sitting silently in the living room. Shania and Renee sitting in the living room. Claudia sitting upstairs or standing upstairs over the railing, kind of like talking to them. Kind of awkward, kind of like, what's going on here? Claudia says after a couple minutes, they've been in there for an hour. They must have gone through all the books by now. Maybe it's hopeful thinking, but hopefully they haven't found anything. This whole situation is making me very mad. What's going on? Oh man, I don't know what's happening. Well, let me just explain to you what we believe has happened, because it was explained to us many times afterward. Something occurred in the library. Daniel was the first to get there, followed by Anika and Hope, I believe. And they got in there. Something was happening. There were pieces of a puzzle going around. And Anika apparently told Hope to shut the door. Don't let anybody in. Except people got in because Ty was there and he burst through the door. He was able to get through Hope's defenses. They obviously let Kuzi in, and then Hope eventually also let Santina in, which meant that the three girly pops were the only people not let into the room, and they waited outside for over an hour while everyone else was inside doing whatever it was inside. And when Kuzi finally comes out, she says, "House guests, where are you? Come on over. There's something for us in there." And it turns out they're like, "Yeah, sorry about that. Turns out it wasn't a power. Turns out it was like a house activity, and there's a party tonight."
Yeah, now that it's not a power, we were never against you guys. This wasn't to exclude you and have everyone in the room accept you. Don't worry about it. It's just a party. We're gonna have a party.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Hmm.
Kuzi says, "Are you okay?" Shanae's like, "No." Imagine how we feel right now. Imagine you were put in that situation. Daniel comes over. He says, "Listen, we were just trying to fight for the power. We weren't trying to lock you guys out. We were just trying to beat them to the power because there were all these puzzle pieces, and Ty was in there, and we were just like, it was just a big old mess." And Claudia says, "Well, I mean, Hope blocking that door. I hope Johnny's really proud of you for doing that. Hope Johnny would be proud of that." And Daniel says to himself, "It does really suck. I do feel bad for them." And Shania says, "Honestly, I have no interest in being here with any of you." And Kuzi says, "Well, there is something in there for everyone, so let's."
Yeah, let's go look. Here's the letter you can read now that we're done with it.
Yep. They're pissed. They're quite pissed, if you couldn't tell. And obviously,
I'm pissed.
it's not something they're not used to.
P-I-S-S-E-D, pissed. I'm getting the heat for something I didn't even do. What the heck? I'm pissed. Ugh. Pissed. My plan for the rest of the day is try to unpiss myself. I have to go talk to my allies.
Let me tell you, Renee has not unpissed herself since that moment.
No. There's were times during the course of these like 2 hours that we got where I was like, all right, Renee, maybe nope, she's mad. She's still mad and letting everyone know.
Mm-hmm. Now, just to be clear, we did not see this moment on the feeds, on the drop, and we are only getting retells of it. So hard to know exactly what the truth is when, again, we're gonna hear Daniel, Anika, Kuzi, multiple people try to explain what happened. Ty's gonna give a bit of his perspective. They're all slightly different in terms of who's the most to blame and all of this stuff. But the fact of the matter is that the girly pops don't seem to really care all that much. They're just pissed. Like they don't care who's most at fault. They're just pissed at everyone in that room for the situation, and they literally just had to sit outside, being left out for again over an hour, while everyone else got to have so much fun putting pieces of paper together as a puzzle. It was the cheapest looking puzzle I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's the thing is that they're all talking about how, well, Daniel was the first to find it, so we all agreed in the room, and then every time
Mhm.
someone else came in the room, we kept agreeing that Daniel would be the one to get it no matter what. And if we let you in, we'd have to have that conversation again. And we already did it 5 times, so we don't feel like it. And the girly pops are just insisting, like, we just wanted to be a part of it. We wanted to have that experience for our life. Like, okay, sure, whatever. I mean, way to tell them that, like, we don't trust you to follow through with what you say if you agreed to it, but whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. So the result of this puzzle, now granted, of course, they could be lying to the girls about what actually came of it, but it does appear to be fairly factual here. They just got a letter, an invitation, and the invitation told them that they are invited to a party. And what was it exactly? That's basically that there's some sort of party, and that but beware, there's a cost to the party, and the more that you indulge, Anika says, when the dinner bell rings, we'll go out into the yard and enjoy the feast, but at your own cost. The harder you party, the higher the cost. But then later they say, no, the exact wording was, the more you feast, the bigger you cost. The bigger the cost. So they know that there's a feast coming that night, which was last night. Obviously, we're not going to see the events of the feast. And from here, I imagine we are no longer getting any drops until Wednesday. But, we got more than I think I expected even just today and yesterday. So you can't know for sure. But I would expect if somebody's supposed to leave during the feast, then I would imagine we don't get anything from here. But it happened last night, and they were told to beware that the more you feast, the higher the cost. So that implies that it is not a safety chain, I would imagine. It implies that there's, I don't know, maybe somebody completely irrelevant from Kuzi's HOH just leaves based on the events of that feast. Maybe Kuzi's HOH does have something to do with it, and they will crown a new one. But to me, it seems like the feast itself will be an entirely separate event that maybe Kuzi is immune for, or who knows.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm wondering if there's going to be like a special power that like someone could get in order to like influence who ends up leaving this week, but that will have impacts on their game moving forward, and how much are like they willing to give up moving forward in order to really control this feast. But everyone seems very confused. It's a lot of like, well, do I have to change now, or when is this happening?
Yeah. So hard to know. Maybe maybe the Wendy's points will come into play here. Maybe there will be some sort of who knows. We can. There's not even much to speculate on at this point. We will just have to wait and see. But that's basically. I mean, that's basically the whole entire drop.
Yeah.
Is them continuing to talk about this in circles. But Anika and Daniel seem to be doing the most amount of damage control. Anika saying, well, we didn't want to let Santina in. We didn't know until the end that it wasn't a secret power. It was just a party. She says that her and Hope were sitting by the staircase. Ty tried to push his way through the door. He eventually got through. Her, Daniel, and Hope were there. And then once Ty got in, he said, don't let anyone else in. And she doesn't know why Hope let Santina in. And they all agreed, as you said, Scally, that they'd let Daniel have it since he was the first one in. And Daniel continues to explain that like the reason they didn't try to like get the door open was because they were so busy trying to find the puzzle pieces, and he was hiding them like in his clothing because he didn't want other people to have them, and it was just a big mess. And so again, lots of explaining there. Daniel talks to Santina, and she says, "Do you think that the puzzle pieces are more clues to something else?" He says he's not sure. He says it's all leading to the feast, so maybe at the feast something will happen, which again implies to me that they are not lying about what they found, that it is just a letter to the feast. Which again makes the girls even more upset because they're like, well, it was supposed to be something for the whole house to do together and find a clue about a feast, except we got excluded from it. So that kind of sucks.
Yeah, they're questioning everything. It's like, well, because Hope even says at points like, well, there are definitely sides to this house now, and I don't know which side I'm on. And it's like, all right, Hope, like, let's maybe not reinforce that. But I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like the girly pops are definitely questioning where they stand. From their point of view, it's Ty, Santina, and Hope that are on the outs, and why were they included and then they were not. So it's definitely testy in there.
Yeah, one of the bigger points of contention seems to be that like they would have understood if it was just like Kuzi and Daniel and Anika in there, but the fact that Santina was allowed in, but not them, was like, whoa, that's not cool. So Ty talks to Claudia. She says to leave 3 people out there is messed up. Ty says, I told them to let you in, but everyone was so focused on the puzzle. I had to barge my way in, which of course contradicts what the rest of them are saying, that as soon as Ty got in, he said, don't let anyone else in, which, Claudia talks to Hope. She says she's sorry she said that about Johnny. She was upset. She shouldn't have brought Johnny into it. He says, you're right, though. I was just listening like an idiot, and what you said was right. When I got in there, Anika told me to lock the door. And then when Ty broke in, he said no more in here. And as you said, Scally, he said there are definitely sides of this house right now, and I don't even know what side I'm on anymore. And I mean that, he says to Claudia. So honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Hope is genuinely feeling a little bit bad because he listened to people and blocked the door. I mean, this is him, right? Like he kind of, people tell him what to do. He's like, yeah, I'm for the team. And then now he feels like I did a bad thing. And now what did you make me do? So, who knows where Hope is in all of this.
Yeah, the danger in keeping Hope is like he is going to stay on a mission, but it doesn't take much for him to have like a crisis of faith in the alliance and really like, am I doing the right thing by sticking with this?
Mm-hmm. So Kuzi, Anika, and Daniel talk with Claudia, Renee, and Shania, and this should be the 6 of them together. This is what Kuzi wants to bring together. It should be a strategy talk, but instead it's more explaining about the situation. Claudia says, on a game level, I get it. It just doesn't feel great. And she says, so there's a party tonight, and that's when they explain what was happening in the letter. Daniel goes to get the letter, and he brings it back, but before they can read it out loud, Santina comes in and kind of interrupts. Now, she did say that Ty mentioned that if you eat, there might be a cost to it, which again comes from that line. So Claudia reads the letter to herself, and when Santina comes in, she asks if Renee is okay. Which, listen, she's tried this before.
You okay? No, I'm pissed.
And predictably, it goes worse than that first time. Santina comes in. Renee, are you okay? And Renee, that's a joke, right? I'm trying to ask a genuine question. Imagine how you would feel, Santina. She said, I completely understand. You have the right to feel that way. I'm just trying to make sure you're okay. She said, nobody cared if I was okay in the hour and a half that we were standing outside. Santina says, do you know that? Clearly, nobody cared enough to open the door for us. Listen, whatever happened, happened. Whatever explanation there is, I don't really care. And Shania bursts into tears. She's I don't want to be here if there's going to be fighting. I'm so embarrassed. I need to leave. So she leaves with Daniel and Claudia. Kuzi says, listen, you're totally justified in how you feel. And Renee says, oh, I'm fine. I'm unfazed. I don't care. It's just watching them that makes me upset. Especially seeing in hindsight that it was supposed to be something that we were all supposed to enjoy together. As a fan, missing out on that experience of putting these papers together clearly is upsetting. And Renee says, you of all people, Santina, should understand what it's like to not be included. And she says, yeah, I do understand. It's been happening to me since early in the game. But I get that it's a game. And this just goes on for like another half hour.
Yeah, it's in circles. Santina basically, like you said, she says like, I've been in your shoes and I'm okay. So I'm like, well, let's fix this up. So I don't know. Shanae is definitely taking this the hardest. She is like very upset. I think that even Claudia at one point is like, I don't want to say that Shanae is not built for the game, but and Claudia is definitely doing the best job of being like, oh, like I'm upset, but like it's okay, and like trying to smooth things out. So it's interesting watching while they all had like the same reaction when they were together, how the three of them have handled this since.
Mm-hmm. So Renee ends up talking to Kuzi alone and in the HOH room. And this is kind of, they're finally starting to drop what happened with the puzzle. And they're talking about what Kuzi has been wanting to talk about, which is, can we work together moving forward? And so Kuzi brings up the fact that Renee basically refused to work with her on the Jonathan vote. And she gives us a little more insight into what happened. Now, we know last week that Kuzi and Anika had decided they wanted to keep Jonathan. They went down to talk to the women about it, and Renee basically just like completely derailed the conversation for the entire time that she was there. And they ended up keeping Hope instead. So Kuzi says that they had decided to keep Jonathan. They tried to talk to the women about it, and Renee was rejecting them from her perspective. She then went to Jonathan and said, listen, Jonathan, we want to keep you. And Jonathan told her no. And Jonathan decided that he wanted to leave. So she went back to the women and tried talking to them again, apparently, about not keeping Jonathan this time because Jonathan wanted to leave. And she wanted them to talk to Jonathan about, like, can we get him to stay? Like, what can we do here? But again, she felt rejected by Renee, that Renee didn't believe her, didn't believe what she was saying, and didn't want to talk to her about this. And it ended up with the split vote of them voting for Hope and the rest of them voting Jonathan out. And Kuzi's basically like, how am I supposed to work with you when I was trying to work with you all last week and I was just getting rejected left and right? And Renee basically says like, well, I felt like you were trying to get me out last week, so I didn't trust a thing you were saying. And so, that's Kuzi's perspective on what happened last week. I don't, again, know how truthful it is exactly, but that was, some of it lines up at least in terms of feeling rejected by the women, because we saw at least one of those conversations.
Yeah, I mean, Kuzi brings up how, like, Renee, you were not excited when I won HOH.
Yes.
Renee fires back immediately with, like, and do you remember the reaction when I was taken off the block with POV? So
she says, yeah, I can say the same thing about the POV. Because like, that's not true at all. I was so happy for you when the POV was won. She said, no, I mean at the ceremony. She says, what are you talking about? I came and talked to you right after. She said, but you didn't give me a hug.
a hug means something.
Yeah.
So
it's like
I don't know. These two are like trying to bluff each other into like, oh, there was never a problem, it's fine, neither of us are mad, while still like bringing up why they're mad at every point that they're like available to, and like rationalizing why they're approaching it from this way. So It is. I don't know that it is going to work. We've have flagged that it's probably better for Kuzi if she is seeing the light and targeting the girly pops. I really thought that when I see the girly pops stewing all by themselves outside, that maybe these 6 have solidified against them. But this conversation is not convincing me.
Kuzi's doing a lot of this, which I'm not usually a fan of, which is you are not giving me enough reason to trust you. You are seeming worried. You are seeming like you don't trust me, which is making me not trust you. So can you just act like you trust me more so that I can trust you more? Which is just such a shaky foundation of building trust. You can't. It's just trying to brute force it. The only things that can result from that are either it shakes the foundation so much that they're like, I don't know how to make her trust me. I don't know how to make it seem like I trust her enough for her to trust me. And it's this repeating cycle. So I'm just not going to trust her. Or they're like, okay, what she wants from me is for me to pretend better that I trust her. So that's what I'll give her. And it's not real. You can't tell somebody, listen, I don't like it when you don't act happy when I win. So next time when I win, you'd better act happy. Okay, that doesn't change whether I trust you or not. It just changes whether I act happy when you win or not. So don't love it. We leave and come back to this conversation, though. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's exactly it. If it's broken, it's broken, and if it's not, you're about to break it. So
yeah, you need to be gentle. You need to foster trust. You need to support it and help it grow, not beat it into submission.
Yeah.
Kuzi, when they come back, Kuzi's saying, you also tried to get me on the block last week when Ty was HOH. And Renee says, no. I was only trying to say that because I'd already been on the block, people that haven't been on the block already should go up instead. It was like, well, who do you think that is? People who haven't been on the block. That's me. And Kuzi says, listen, let's drop this. What would you support this week? What would I do that you would support? And Renee says, I would support Santina being targeted. And Kuzi's like, okay, but 2 people need to go up on the block. And Renee says, well, I assume that one of us is going to have to go up next to Santina, which is quite the indicator of where the trust is, right? And Kuzi says, not necessarily. And Renee says, you really think the 6 of us can go into a triple working together? You really think that can happen? And Kuzi says, I think so, right? I mean, listen, it's just when Shania is looking at me like she's mad at me, though, it's that's hard. And Renee says, okay, would you want me to talk to them first so that we can get on the same page? She goes, no. I want to talk to them individually. I don't want to be told that I'm confused or whatever. I want to hear from them that they feel good about me without you telling them to say that they feel good about me. Renee's like, okay.
Yeah, you don't tell them that I need them to tell me that they feel good about me. I'm gonna tell them that they need to tell me to feel good about me. So
because she does that next when she talks to Claudia. Renee says, listen, I promise you Claudia would not have targeted you if she had won that HOH. We know this is a lie. Kuzi says, I want to believe that, but I feel rejected every time I try talking to you guys, so it's hard. And I'm just like, Kuzi, yes, you're correct. It is hard for a reason because they're lying to you and they want to target you.
Yeah, that's the thing is Kuzi has the sign. She's recognizing them and she's willfully ignoring them. Renee, it feels like you pitched me, and she's like, no, I just did pitch you. And it's okay, well, they're you have the information. She's confirming that she said what you think was sketchy, and then you're just looking for reasons why that shouldn't matter.
Now, to be fair, she has the same read on Santina, but that one's wrong. So it's I guess she feels like she's got to trust one side. It's just she's kind of choosing the wrong one, it seems. Mm-hmm. So Daniel and Nika, Shania, and Claudia are going to talk even more about the puzzle, but they seem to start to be finding some common ground in this conversation. Daniel and Anika, Shania, and Claudia, they're kind of laughing together again, mostly because they found a common enemy in Santina, and they get to complain about Santina, and that makes them happy.
Mm-hmm. You think we wanted Santina in there?
Exactly.
Imagine.
He's not even kidding. That was exactly
no.
What the
I'm
conversation
quoting.
Was. Yeah. Because again, I feel like, I mean, listen, obviously it's going to feel terrible to be shut out of the room when there's a power in there potentially and all of that. But the thing I think that genuinely felt the worst was that they were like, wait a minute, we're below Santina. And so the reassurance that seems to be working with them the best is, no, we did not want Santina. We have no idea why Hope let Santina in there. We would have let you guys in there before Santina if it had been up to us. And they're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, because they even tried. They were like, and then we weren't going to let Kuzi in, but since she's HOH, we're like, I guess we should just let her in because she's HOH. And they're like, we do not believe that you would not have let Kuzi in. There's no world in which that does not happen.
Yeah. So Kuzi talks to Claudia, and this is that conversation they were talking about. Now, this is when they talk about the more you feast, the bigger the cost. So again, whatever that means. Kuzi brings up again that, hey, you guys didn't seem very happy for me when I won. It's beginning to scare me that there's just so much tension here. And I heard you say my name during Ty's HOH. And Claudia says, no, we never said specific names. We just implied that you should be targeted. It's basically that response. She says, and listen, I also said Daniel's name and Anika's name. So it's like, I said lots of names.
Yeah, I was just targeting your whole group.
Claudia says, but listen, I do want R6 to work together. And Kuzi says, that's what I want too. But I'm just worried about Shania at this point. Shania's like, she barely even looks at me. And Claudia is trying to reassure her about Shania. And this conversation kind of goes back and forth a bit. It doesn't really seem to be heading in a particular direction because it keeps circling back to like, but you guys aren't trusting me, but you aren't trusting us. And that's kind of where the drop ends.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the problem where, just like with Renee, she has like an exact quote on Claudia of like, Kuzi is really well connected and I think you should look out for that. And Claudia is able to deflect by like, no, I said that about everyone. It's hard. Just like watching her have like almost complete information, but then just like reading one side of it wrong is tough.
Yeah. So at this point, it's starting to feel to me, if I had to make a prediction based on these clues, we were thinking that the feast might interrupt Kuzi's plans, prevent nominations from happening at all, or something along those lines. To me, it's starting to feel like, again, and I mentioned this at the start, but that this feast might be a completely separate thing, and that they might have the feast, somebody gets evicted from the feast, and then maybe Kuzi makes nominations after, based on the new amount of people who are left after the feast, which would mean that she, depending on who leaves, may just go ahead and follow through with her plans, which could honestly be even more dangerous depending on who leaves. Or she could change her plans depending on who leaves. Like, for instance, if Ty were to leave, does she then put up Santina and one of the girls, or does she go straight for the girls? If Santina leaves, same thing. If one of her allies, like Hope or one of the Shady Bunch, leaves, does she now still feel comfortable going to the end with the girls, or does she feel like, wait a minute, I might need to switch things up? One of the girls leave, I would imagine that only further reinforces her idea of like, okay, now I definitely need to go after Ty or Santina. That would be best case scenario for her. But it's so difficult to know how that would even work, if nominations would follow through, or if her, to me, the idea of her just being safe and then anybody could leave and then she gets to make nominations after is a little overpowered, which is not something Big Brother Canada shies away from, but maybe an indication that her HOH would have something to do with this feast to some degree, and that she would lose her power afterward. And quite honestly, that's more interesting to me, is like, let's run through Kuzi's HOH via this twist and then get to a new HOH and do something new afterward, as opposed to like just a brief little blip. Oh, someone's gone. Now let's get back to business. But who knows?
Yeah, I'm really curious. I was trying to even think through like an episode structure perspective. Like, I feel like you want to end on the Fatal Feast. I don't think that's a middle of the episode game or whatever it ends up being. So then are we pushing nominations to Wednesday? Like, how's that working?
Yeah.
That also was like impacting my decision on what order this may happen in.
Yeah, and there's clearly content for the episode on Tuesday prior to the feast itself. So I imagine we're going to get Kuzi winning HOH, discussing nomination plans, this whole puzzle ordeal and the aftermath. And then maybe the last 20 minutes or so is the feast, especially because we don't have a competition. So it's probably just going to take the place of the competition time-wise. And then maybe that does imply that those nomination plans have some relevance, since we might get them in the episode. And, if the feast interferes, then that would just cancel it out. Although those nominations plans may come into play during the feast itself, which might be even more fun and interesting in terms of the context of the episode. So, so difficult to know, if Kuzi then makes nominations on Wednesday plus veto. I think you can fit that in. But if we need a new HOH, that would be trickier to fit in. HOH, veto, and then eviction on Thursday, just in 2 episodes. So who knows?
Yeah, it's hard, especially for Kuzi, especially if Ty or Santina go. Like, you have to target the girly pops, because what, you're gonna get the other one of them out and then just trust the girly pops with an HOH, where Hope is allegedly the only person that they would quote unquote target. And if the girly pops go home and she makes the mistake, one of them goes home and she makes the mistake of putting up Ty and Santina, then I guess from a Kuzi fan perspective, at least she only has 2 people coming after her that she doesn't know about. So this twist really could save her, but have no clue what ultimately is going to play.
Could save her, could make things worse at
it's
this
possible.
point. So who knows? So that's what we have for you today. Again, I would very much expect that we don't have any drops Monday or Tuesday, and that we'd have to wait until after Tuesday in order to find out who gets evicted from the feast. So I would expect that the next time ICU is probably going to be on the roundtable Monday night, where we will do our best to rate these players based on the very little information that we are likely to have. And then on Tuesday, of course, I'll be live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, watching the episode live with all of you. Should be an interesting one to watch live, at least, hopefully. And then, of course, we'll recap the episode after it ends. So you can check that out. You can also check out the Survivor Global Stockwatch crossover episode that I did this week with Shannon. These are always very fun. About 3 hours of Survivor content. We talked about the state of the show in general. We talked about the episode and the players and all kinds of fun stuff. Definitely highly recommend that. If you're going to listen to any, of the Survivor content this season, that's probably the one to check out. It's the most in-depth one we will probably do all season. So check that one out. And then, check out the Among Us videos I'm posting and all that good stuff. Scally, what do you got going on?
Anything I'm doing will be on Twitter at Brian_Scally. Let's see, what do I have going on? I'm regularly covering the Challenge World Championship over on the Dom and Colin podcast with Matt Ligori. That has been, in my opinion, the best season of the challenge in years, probably. So I do recommend people that are have been out for a little bit, maybe check it out. And then I was able to guest on the 90 Day Fiance podcast with Puya this week, so people should check that up in the wrap-ups feed. And releasing, I believe this week will be I got to talk about Gossip Girl, the old version, over on the Lonely Boys podcast. So that was a ton of fun, and people should look out for that.
All right, well, that's what we have for you then today. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I will see all of you next time.